Hello students, today we are doing lesson 7.3, solving equations. This is with multiplication and division. We have done this already before, this is not new, but now we are putting fractions and decimals into it. So in lesson 7.1 and 7.2, we learned how to multiply and divide fractions, and today we are learning how to put that into an equation. So nothing new, we did this with adding and subtracting. We're just taking everything today is stuff you have learned before. We're just taking it and putting it all together. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Example 1. Oh, why isn't my pencil working? Okay, hold on just a second. I gotta connect my pencil here. Hopefully I can get it connected. So in example 1, it's going to have an A and a B section to it. So let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, so example 1A. A is going to look like this. X divided by 4 equals 3/7. So I'm going to do a little section over here that you should be taking notes. If you're watching this at home and you weren't in class and you didn't take notes in class, then you should be taking notes. I'm going to do a little section off to the side where you do not have to write this part. It's just a kind of reminder for you. So if I had X divided by 2 equals 7. Okay, so we learned how to solve these early in the year. And to get rid of the divided by 2, remember we're trying to get X by itself, then I multiply by 2. On both sides, an equation has to stay balanced, so you have to do the same thing on both sides. So these eliminate each other, or they are like 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I have 1x, so that's just x. And then on this side, I have 7 times 2 is 14, and there's my answer. So I'm going to do the same thing over here where this says x divided by 4. I'm going to do the opposite of divide by 4, and I'm going to multiply by 4 on both sides to keep that equation balanced. So these eliminate each other, or they equal 1, and so I have 1x, or just x. We don't have to put the 1 in front of it. And then when I do 3/7 times 4, I want to turn that 4, which is really a whole number, right? It's really like 4, like that, but I just made it smaller because I'm going to change it into a fraction. So a whole number like 4 as a fraction is the same as 4 over 1. So I'm going to change that 4 into 4 over 1. And now I can multiply these fractions just like you did when you learned how to multiply fractions in 7.1. So 3 times 4 is 12. You multiply the numerators, then multiply the denominators. 7 times 1 is 7. That ends up as an improper fraction, so I'm going to change it into a mixed number. We've already done this a lot. We have continued to do this, so you should already know how to do this. I say, how many times does 7 go into 12? It's 1 time. I have 5 left over after doing that, and 7 stays on the bottom. If you're not sure how to change improper fractions into mixed numbers, we've been doing it a lot. So maybe look it up somewhere else and get a better handle on it, or ask more in class. Okay, so that's it. We started with x divided by 4. That means we multiplied by 4 on both sides, and that's how we solved it. That is new to you, so I'm not taking a whole lot of time with everything. Okay, part B is going to be 3x is equal to 2/3. So this one is going to show you something kind of new. So in the past, we're over on the side again, if I had 2x equaled 6, then this means 2 times x, so I do the opposite of times and I divide by 2. These two make 1, so I have 1x, or just x, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So what I did here was I divided by 2. So I want you to look at this problem. If I take this problem and I divide by 3 here, and I divide by 3 here, this looks weird. Nobody shows it that way, okay, in math. Now, I could show it this way. I could say divide it by 3, and then this you should be able to do because we did that in lesson 7.2. But I'm going to show you an even better way to do this. So if my point here is to get 1x, so I want to turn that 3 into a 1, is when we did division of of fractions, you learn that if I do, let's say if I had 2/3 and I multiply by the reciprocal. So what is the reciprocal? That means just the flip of the first number. So if I multiply that by the reciprocal, each of these cancel out and my answer is 1. So I want this to become a 1. I need to multiply by the reciprocal. So what is the reciprocal of 3? Well, 3 means 3 over 1. And the reciprocal of that is flipping these two. So it's going to be 1/3. That's the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of 3. So we just said 3 is 3 over 1. So I'm going to multiply by 1 over 3. Remember, we're doing equations. You have to do the same thing on both sides. So if you multiply by 1/3 over here so that you get 1x, you still have to multiply by 1/3 over here. Okay, so these cancel out and I get 1x equals, and now over here, I'm going to just do the multiplication. So I have 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 3 is 9, and this cannot be simplified anymore. So that is my answer. Okay, so this is how all of these are going to be, but it's going to, you just need practice on it. So these are not hard at all, very simple, as long as you know how to multiply and divide fractions. Really just multiply fractions. We're not really dividing because we're multiplying by the reciprocal. And so you just need some practice on these. So let's do another example. We have 2/3 x equals 4/7. So now instead of having a 2x or x divided by 3, we have a whole fraction in front of the x. But we already know how to take care of that because we want to make that fraction into a 1. So to do that, we multiply by its reciprocal. So I'm just going to flip the 2/3 into 3/2. And I'm going to multiply by that on both sides. Now look, these 2's are going to cancel each other out, and these 3's are going to cancel each other out. And all of those turn into 1. So I have 1x, which is just x. And then over here, I'm going to multiply here. So to multiply, which we learned in lesson 7.1, you can go back and watch the video if you need to. I can simplify, cross simplify. So the 2 and the 4 can both be simplified by dividing each of them by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now I multiply my numerators. 2 times 3 is 6. And my denominator, 7 times 1 is 7. And there's my answer. X equals 6/7. Okay, so pretty easy. Let's do one more example, and then I'm going to do a couple with you where I want you to try them on your own. Okay, example 3 is 1 2/3 z, remember you don't have to have an x every time, equals 3 3/4. Well, when we're multiplying, dividing, when we're doing anything with fractions that have to do with multiplying and dividing, we want to change them into an improper fraction. So to do that, we've learned this, we've done it a lot, but I'll remind you, you do 3 times 1, that equals 3. Then you plus the top number, so that's 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. So I have 5 over 3, the denominator stays the same, z. And then I need to do the same thing here. Everything needs to be improper. So 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15, and I keep that denominator. So now I can solve this. So this is just like example 2. We just had to change those mixed numbers into improper fractions. And we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the number, the fraction that's in front of z, okay? Because I want z by itself. So that was times 3/5. Do that on both sides. Those cancel each other out, and I get z equals. Now, before I start multiplying, I want to simplify. So I notice that 15 and 5 can both be divided by 5. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cross it out and write my new answer there. So now you have 3. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 1 is 4. I don't leave my answer like that. I need to change it into a mixed number. So 4 goes into 9 2 times. 1 is left over, and the denominator stays 4. So that is my answer. Z equals 2 1/4. So now I want you to do one on your own. I want you to do, I'm just going to call this example 4. We actually did something a little bit different in class with just going through and answering a few things verbally, but we can't do that in a lesson on a video lesson. So I want you to stop the video and I want you to do this one on your own and then come back and watch me finish it and you can see if you have it right. So pause the video, solve this on your own, and then come back. Okay, y'all should be back now. So this one looks a little bit different than some of the other ones we did, but you should have been able to figure it out. We did kind of talk about something like this. We have a fraction here and a whole number here. So you can do a couple of things. You can either first start, or you could change that whole number into a fraction if you want to, so that you have all fractions. But I'm just going to go ahead and start. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal here, which would be 3/2, and multiply by the reciprocal here. Now that I've done that, those cancel each other out. Now I notice over here that I have a whole number times a fraction, and I want a fraction times a fraction. So I'm just going to change that to a fraction like that. Okay? And then my 2 and my 6 can be both divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. Then I multiply across. So I get 9 over 1. You do not leave it like that. This is a improper fraction because the top is bigger than the bottom. So I say 1 goes into 9 times. I have nothing left over, so I don't have a fraction. It's just C equals 9. Okay, that's it for this lesson. And if you still are having a problem, then go back and rewatch the lesson to watch it. If you get to a certain point in your homework where you're saying, oh, wait, I don't know how to do that one. Well, it might be that it looks like example 1 or it looks like example 2. Just go back and watch that part of the video, and that will help you with that problem that you're having in your work. So that's it for today.